Hello everyone, this video will talk about the nature of language, the types of communication, and the communication models. Now this will discuss the differences and the similarities between language and communication. So let's start. First is the meaning of communication. Communication is the process of meaning making through a channel or a medium. It's from the word communicare, which means to share or make ideas common. So, sounds, gestures, and even language can be used for communication. Communication process is a dynamic process that begins with the conceptualizing of ideas by the sender, who then transmits the message through a channel to the receiver, who in turn gives the feedback in the form of some message or signal within the given time frame. So this communication process is from the different communication models that we'll be discussing on the last part of this video. Language, on the other hand, is composed of a system of rules, a sound system, and a vocabulary. So this is what we humans use to communicate. We humans use language to communicate. Speech community is composed of people who share the same rules and the same language. So there are many speech communities, even in the smallest scale in our region. That's why the mother tongue is based on the speech communities, it's based on the languages in which the children grew. So these are the other concepts about language. We have language acquisition. It is concerned with our first language, and it is the process of acquiring our first language. And we usually acquire our first language without the need to go to school, without the need to have formal education. While language learning, it's mostly for our second language, foreign language, etc. It's learned. Unlike the first language, it is learned in school. And just like the way we learn English, we learn the grammar rules in order to learn it. Now, next we have the types of communication. The first set of the types of communication is the type of communication according to mode. Now, in this type, we have two subcategories. We have the first is the verbal non-verbal communication. This is composed of both verbal, which is the thoughts, information, and emotions expressed through speech, and the non-verbal, which is the process of communication without the use of spoken words. Non-verbal communication involves facial expressions, eye contact, gestures, body language, and posture. Now, even though we don't use speech to communicate this, our actions while we speak or while we don't speak already means something, even without speaking. Next type is the visual communication. It involves the use of visual elements to convey ideas, information, and data. An example of this is what you can see on our screen. It is composed of symbols, road signs, And it also, but it's not limited to that. It also includes charts, maps, and graphics. Next is the types of communication according to context. Context involves the environment in which the communication took place. It also involves the persons in the communication process. First, we have the intrapersonal communication. So, from the word intra, it means talking to oneself. You are not communicating with others, instead, you are talking to yourself. Intrapersonal communication can include internal monologue, talking to self, and writing. Writing on your diary, the one that hides your darkest secrets. Intrapersonal communication is normal as long as you want to organize your thoughts or you want to express your feelings and you have nothing to talk to. It's normal. So next we have interpersonal communication. So unlike the first type, it involves other people. Just like the one on the example. These are your neighbors who talks whenever they had a time. And when the communication, when the process of communication is about formal or business related stuff, it becomes transactional. While interpersonal is about the informal communication. Third is extended communication. It is the type of communication that involves the use of electronic media. So it involves Skype, video conferencing, group chat, and the like. Next is the organizational communication. So, this type of communication is applicable on the organizations or people in business or in the academia. So, we have two types of organizational structure. This is the formal and the informal. Formal talks about the ones on the company or the organization, while informal talks about the personal lives of the persons involved. Now, under the formal type of organizational structure, we have four approaches. These are the downward communication. It's the communication between a person with a higher position to his or her subordinates. The upward communication, which is the communication from the subordinates going to their superiors. The horizontal communication, which is the communication from persons with the same positions but from the different departments, and the crosswise communication, which is the communication from different organizations regardless of their position. Next is the intercultural communication. It is the communication between or among people having different linguistic, religious, ethnic, social, and professional backgrounds. So it's not only limited to the nationality of a person. The religion, social backgrounds can also be included in the intercultural communication. Lastly, we have the types of communication according to purpose and style. So for this type, we only have two. First is the formal communication. So, as I've said a while ago, it involves formal language, and it's something that is academic, formal, or business related. The essays that you submit, or the essays that you will write, or you have written in other subject, is included in this formal communication. While informal communication involves personal and ordinary conversations with friends, family, members, or acquaintances about anything. So the purpose of this type of communication is to socialize and enhance relationships. Next, we proceed with the communication models. Now, for these communication models, we have a lot of models here that were already discussed, but for this video we will only focus with 4, which is I think already familiar with you since this is already discussed in your oral communication subjects. First is Aristotle's model of communication. So this is the model with the elements in it. It has 5 elements: the speaker, speech, occasion, audience, and effect. This is one of the linear types of communication wherein there is only one source of communication and the audience does not have the chance to give feedback. Now, the speech, which is produced by the speaker, depends on the occasion, and the effect depends on the understanding or on the response of the audience. I think in the times when this model was created, plays, speech, and the like were famous. That's why there is only a linear type of communication, and the purpose of the audience is just to react or laugh or smile or be mad at what they listened to or what they viewed. Next is Laswell's communication model. This is somewhat similar with the first one, but it has other representations for the elements. So the communicator says the message through a channel. So the channel differs, and the receiver is still the receiver of the message with the effect. Next is the Shannon-Weaver's communication model. Unlike the others, we have a lot of elements in here. So we have the sender, encoder, channel, decoder, receiver, noise, and feedback. Let me focus on the most important elements of this communication model. First is the encoder and the decoder. So the message that will be received by the receiver depends on how the message was encoded and decoded. For instance, there were times wherein your response was different from what the sender expected it to be because you misunderstood or you misheard the message. So that's why I think there are elements like that that are included in this communication model. And aside from that, there is noise between the channel. So the noise can be internal or external. It's internal if you listen to something and you are preoccupied. You have other things to think about. That's why you were not able to receive the message as what it should be. While external noise includes noise from cars, noise from your electric fan, noise from your neighbor, that were present while you receive the message. Now, the feedback, if you can notice it here, there is a feedback that was returned to the sender by the receiver, which is kind of different from the other two models. Lastly, it's the Berlow's model of communication. It involves four elements: the source, message, channel, and receiver. So, it's almost similar with the other models, only that in the channel it was explained or elaborated that the channel can uses our senses. We can perceive message through our senses. And although the feedback or the effect is not included here, it is said that the receiver will also become the source when he or she gives the feedback. That's why the effect or the feedback is not explained here. Now, if there are questions, since this is the end of this video, you can comment it on our classroom or on the GC so that it will also be answered or addressed. Thank you for listening up to this point. Bye.